Welcome, friends of News for the Soul. You're listening to Seekers of Grace. This is your host, Mara. I am so grateful you're here. For this second episode of the show, I want to talk about something incredibly close to my heart, VortexHealing Divine Energy Healing. And I would like to talk about vortex healing because this is my favorite subject and the thing I am most passionate about, and I am lucky enough that it has become my everyday profession. I am a certified vortex healing practitioner of the highest level of training, and I have witnessed firsthand the profound healing, grace, awakening, and transformation that this healing art brings. I started my journey with vortex healing in 2019 in London, United Kingdom, and since then, I can tell you, it has been quite a ride. I'm definitely not the same person I was before starting vortex healing, and I have healed in ways I didn't even think were possible. I can honestly say this work saved my life, and I am forever grateful for what vortex healing has done for me. Today, I invite you to explore this beautiful path with me, and I also invite you to listen with an open heart. Without any further ado, let's start our journey. First of all, what is vortex healing? Vortex healing is a powerful, holistic system of multi-dimensional energetic healing and a path of awakening, guided by divine intelligence, which works only with divine light and consciousness. It derives its name from a particular divine energy vortex that is brought in through the heart and which becomes a vehicle for divine presence to manifest healing and transformation and spiritual growth. This means that is a system that works via a transmission which is given to students at the first level of training. We call this foundational training. At foundational level, students receive what we call the vortex wheel, and this sits in the heart. As classes progress, various other transmissions come in, but this one will be the fundamental one, the one that makes you a vortex healer of the lineage. You can imagine this transmission thing like downloading an application on your phone. The vortex wheel will be the app, and this becomes the vehicle for divine presence to manifest healing. With vortex healing, the practitioner does not depend on their own energy. Instead, energy flows through them like a conduit. So, as a practitioner, I'm not really doing anything. It happens through me. It uses my energy system, not my own energy. I have to actively intend to run a specific transmission, but my focus and my intention will be enough. The cool thing with it is that the divine presence behind the healing power of vortex healing will act as an independent intelligence and will go wherever it's most needed and beneficial to you. This also means that it can ever ever be corrupted, and it can only be used for good and positive, and also there is no way it can never harm you in any way. It is exactly the deep connection to this divine presence that makes vortex healing so unique, because the divine presence bridges deeply both the divine energy but also the consciousness of the divine presence itself, and you will get all of that bridged very deeply into who is being treated. This bit, it's critical because the conditioning of our issues is based on the consciousness of separateness, of ego. So it can not simply be released, but it must be transformed back into light, back into the wholeness from which it came from. But only that which is free of ego, so only divine light and consciousness can do that. This is what makes vortex healing so effective, and it enables it to perform extraordinary healings on the physical and emotional level, as well as to release the deepest karmic issues we hold as human beings. All of it is transformed directly by divine consciousness at all levels of our energy system and consciousness. But at the same time, something profound happens. We are dropped deeper into our alignment with divine and true self. So vortex healing is ultimately always facilitating awakening. It is this divine presence which is the source of all the grace and the healing power of this lineage, and this divine presence refers itself by the name of Merlin, which is why this is called the Merlin lineage. Merlin is the transformational aspect of divinity, magical transformation. When the word Merlin comes up, I know you are there probably all thinking about the wizard with the super cool hat, dressed in robes, the Merlin from the Arthurian legend. So this guy, the Merlin from the Arthurian legend, was one of the human teachers of this lineage. But back to Merlin. Merlin is the transformational aspect of divinity. Although divinity is one, there are different aspects, different expressions of divinity that bring into manifestation different qualities of the divine, such as Divine Mother, Divine Father, Christ consciousness, Krishna, pure magic. And because divinity is all one, there will be a little bit of each aspect in another. A little bit of Divine Mother aspect in Christ consciousness, a little bit of Krishna aspect in pure magic, and so on. But back to Merlin once again. We said Merlin is the transformational aspect of divinity. We recognize this quality of the divine as transformational magic or simply magic. This is not to be confused, please, with witchcraft or anything of that sort. Here I'm talking about divine magic, pure divine magic. Merlin is the name that divine presence gave itself and is manifested as the healing art of vortex healing. This is why one of the denominators of vortex healing, which by the way is my favorite, and you will see it anywhere I mention vortex healing, it's always gonna be like this, is vortex healing, divine magic healing. Before we go back to vortex healing, just a note on pure magic, even if that is not the focus of this episode. I just cannot help it. When I start talking about magic, I get really excited and carried away. So we are doing this. But before getting into our little detour into pure magic, I would like to remind you that if you have any questions or if there is any subject you would like to hear about in the show, you can submit your request, and I would really love to hear from you. You can send an email to our listeners' email address at onair@telus.net. That is onair@telus.net. Keep an eye on my page at newsforthesoul.com for open lines in the next episodes of Seekers of Grace, live every second Thursday of the month at noon Pacific time. So, pure magic. Everything in the universe has arisen from a mysterious source, which is beyond human reasoning, logic, and understanding. So we are starting from divinity. Divine intention has the ability to manifest its own potentiality. So when divine intention gives birth to its own potentiality, this emanation, its existence, now all creation revolves around it, and which then divinity gets to experience. This emanation was made possible by the transformational power of pure magic. We can actually now define magic as magic is the potential of mystery to manifest itself. Mystery being the gap between creation and its source. Now, I hope I was able to clarify what magic is, as it's a concept that is often too abstract, mysterious, out there, and can easily fall into the wishy woo-woo, while actually magic is what created everything. Magic is embedded in the very fabric of our own being, and is just the nature of what you truly are. The stars, the galaxies, the moon, the sun, the planet we live on, the Big Bang, boom, magic, life as we know it, the universe. And we ourselves are an expression of divinity experiencing itself as consciousness, We are an expression of divinity experiencing itself as manifested consciousness, like an externalization of divinity, if you wish. We are divinity having an experience, but because we are in separation, we do not realize that until eventually a certain level of awakening. But even then, the only thing that is not in separation is divinity. Experientially, with the divine, we can go as far as whatever in us is not awake. And everything that is not awakeness is conditioning. But there is this mechanism built into what we are. Within awareness, there is this intention to understand its own nature. It's buried deep under all the conditioning, under all that other stuff, but is there. And this reminds me of something that Amma said. I'm sure a lot of you know who Amma is, but for those of you who don't know, Amma is an incarnation of the Divine Mother aspect of divinity. So she is what we call an avatar. An avatar is an embodiment of a certain aspect of divinity. Sometimes divinity gives rise to these beings, those avatars, and divinity puts them in on the planet Earth to facilitate the evolution of human consciousness. For instance, Jesus Christ was an avatar, and he was an embodiment, an incarnation of the divine aspect that is Christ consciousness. So they are not incarnational beings like me and you. They are pure divinity. There will still be some karmic incarnational consciousness in there as they live in a human body, but they have not had an incarnational history like us. They are just pure divinity incarnated into human form. In fact, if you look through Amma's eyes, you won't see any history in there, you won't see any karma, you only will see a gateway through infinity, therefore to divinity. So she's alive, she's in India, she used to tour the world all the time to hug her children, but after COVID she actually stopped. She did one tour in America recently. Hopefully she will start to tour the world again. I did not get a hug from Amma yet, but I hope I will be able to do that soon. Anyways, let's go back to Amma's quote. We said that the only thing that is not in separation is divinity. But within awareness, there is this intention to understand its own nature, and it's buried deep under all the stuff, but it's there. Amma quote, here you go. The energy of pure love is within you. It just needs to awaken. Awareness, which is a step before consciousness, consciousness arises from awareness, awareness arises from divinity, still has identity. But that identity is not an egoic identity, but is an identity of freedom, and that it disappears in divinity. But what makes vortex healing different from any other energy healing technique? What makes vortex healing different from any other healing art and so effective is the fact that it assesses the divine consciousness aspect of the divine presence it channels. Most healing arts that work with the divine use divine energy, also called light, but do not access divine consciousness. This is also true for those healing modalities such as pranic energy or universal energy, which are not forms of divine energy but energy of manifested life. Although divine energy is pure healing energy, it is divine consciousness that transforms the roots of consciousness of separateness. When divine consciousness is truly assessed, it also acts as an independent intelligence. It knows exactly where the root of your issues are held and goes to work directly there to transform them. Vortex healing works with both divine energy and divine consciousness. Other healing arts that work with divine energy only use one particular light that only has one particular function. Vortex healing, at the very basic first level of training, uses 49 forms of divine vortex energy. Each of them is designed by divinity to accomplish different function, with each one of them directed by divine intelligence to go where it needs to go. Vortex healing views all of life as one source, one consciousness, one divinity, expressing itself as this amazing experience of creation. However, our basic experience of life is that we are separate from everything else, and this will create all sorts of issues and false identities, which over time and lives imprint, or you can say condition, every level of our human system, and therefore they generate suffering. An identity is the identification with separateness. Identity is identification with separateness. So this web of conditioning is so unimaginably deep that it completely distorts our experience of human beings, just our experience of being human. It creates all sorts of emotional issues, mental attitudes, and blockages in our human energy system, which ultimately generates weakness and physical disease. Blockages in our energy system may manifest as physical pain, emotional issues, or unhelpful behavioral patterns. Vortex healing addresses not only the physical, emotional, and psychological issues, but also clears and optimizes the entire energy system. So your chakras, your meridians, the Jin, Shin, and Nadi system, your energetic bodies. It also helps burn out viruses and infection. We can clear spaces, clear food, harmonize situations, relationships, just so much more. Healing can also be facilitated on land. So land, crops, animals, our plants and gardens, those are all Gaia's beings. Gaia being the living consciousness of the planet Earth, which, by the way, thanks to the beautiful work of this lineage, Gaia is now awake. So, like humans, all living creatures of our planet respond to Gaia's natural energies, and the divine healing techniques of vortex healing can restore the blockages, imbalances, and conditioning that afflicts them the same way it does on humans. The intent of vortex healing is to release this conditioning on every level it is found, returning the person to emotional balance and energetic strength so that health will prevail. Although vortex healing is designed to heal the body, transform deep-seated emotional and karmic issues, at a deeper level, it is intended to ripen us towards the greatest healing of all, which is to generate enough inner space out of the web of personal conditioning so that we can begin to awaken to the freedom and oneness that is our true nature. This is the awakening aspect of vortex healing. In fact, throughout the vortex healing trainings, the divine source of the lineage is continually preparing the students to have this awakening, ripening them towards it, so that by a certain level of training, the awakening can actually be implemented in a class that is specifically designed for this. This is an advanced vortex healing class called the Core Veil class. The Core Veil class comes at a certain level of training where up to there students only take the healing thread of classes. Now the second thread of training starts, and this is the one of the awakening classes. The healing tools classes keep progressing after that too, advancing and giving access to more advanced healing tools. To progress after a certain level of awakening, your energy system needs to have a certain level of energetic development, and the healing classes structure provides just that, together with the fantastic healing tools that get stronger and more powerful in each level, and also more fun. It's also worth noting that vortex healers at a different level of training can work on the same thing in different ways with different healing tools. Although spiritual awakening, true, actual spiritual awakening within the lineage will happen starting in the Core Veil class, for real, guaranteed. even when you're going to see a vortex healer for a healing, so you go there, you pay for your healing, your healer, through Merlin's healing art with vortex healing tools, will not only be transforming emotional conditioning, your deep karmic positions, your energy system, your physicality, but also ego identity. So this is not just about transforming conditioning, but it's about the awakening of consciousness to its true nature. Vortex healing, it is always working to clear underlying layers of egoic self. Even if you're getting a healing because you have a broken finger, basically you experience yourself as a separate being, a local bubble of memory and experiences, but yet you are boundless freedom. You are the essence of life itself. And vortex healing, thanks to the divine source of this lineage, provides you a way to awaken you to this essence, to your true being, your true self. So you are experiencing yourself as a localized, a separate self, a particular ego, I. This will then translate into a sense of me and mine. This sense of separation, it's what is behind all of our struggles, conflicts, needs, fears, and ultimately all of our pain and suffering. All of this is filled with I consciousness. I invite you to think for a moment, just think whatever comes in your mind, and notice that wherever you have wandered there, behind all of that, behind the story, behind the drama, the emotion, I-ness is present. Once you come out of this trance, out of the illusion, out of this illusion of the individual ego, there is when true healing happens and you become whole again. Spiritual awakening opens the door for you to completely unhook from your issues so that you can live from freedom. And the more you awaken and the movement deepens, you learn to embody this freedom into your everyday life. So you learn to live from awakeness. This is actually another aspect of awakening, is living from awakeness, and we call this embodiment. Some people that have got to very high level of awakening are not very embodied, and some people that are not as awakened are very embodied. So you can find some super awakened people that are jerks, and people that are not awakened at all that are super embodied. There is no right or wrong. Everybody is on their own path. Everyone's path is different. But once you have awakened, you should always aim to live from there. Vortex healing can also be used for facilitating earth shifts and assessing the immense amount of divine assistance that has become available for our present human acceleration. This is the broader aspect of vortex healing. In advanced vortex healing work, as practitioners, we learn techniques that enable us to open vortex spaces over towns and cities. We also learn to open divine funnels and divine doors in places to bridge more divinity into the planet and into humans' consciousness. We also gather in groups to create a larger scale planetary healings. Vortex healing can be facilitated either in person or remotely. The way I personally work, both in person and remote sessions, start with an initial consultation to make sure your healing is customed to your needs. We will also have a chat, and with your consent, I will tune in and use my psychic sensing to see what is coming up for you in terms of your energy system needs and most significant issues, karmic, emotional, psychological. Every vortex healing session is different. There are a lot of possibilities. We have special projects or specific protocols for emotional, psychological, karmic issues, and also for injuries, for clearing the deepest layers of karma, for relaxations. We have protocols for organs. And also, vortex healing can be used on the genetics and clearing ancestral conditioning and karma, as ancestral history within the DNA is an essential part of the energetic and consciousness structure of the DNA. Ancestral conditioning arising from within the body, it's one of our many fonts of conditioning. This emotional history, genetic, karmic memory merges together with your personal karmic history into your personal consciousness. In fact, did you know that 50% of your karma sits on your genetics? Can you imagine that? Embedded in our flesh and bones. We are literally the definition of walking karma. Vortex healing will not change the genetic code, but it will change its consciousness, therefore changing the expression of it. Genetic work can clear your personal present life, past lives, and ancestral karmic imprinting on the DNA. This is all what karmic imprinting in the DNA is about. Is made up of your present life, all of your past lives, and also both ancestral lines, which you also have to consider your ancestors going down all the way until, I don't know, eventually we were fish or something, also had past lives. So it's like an infinite oceans of stuff that does not really belong to you, and is like a disc you keep hearing, and there is no need for you to keep listening to it. And also genetic work can genetically modify DNA and RNA expression, for instance, for correcting a genetic kink, like say diabetes or hair loss, clear epigenetics of negative influences from DNA, RNA, and microRNA, clear negative epigenetic from a focused organ, system, or issue. Say you have a anger issue, that anger would have created some sort of negative epigenetics on your stomach, for instance. We can also clear epigenetic from personal karmic history, mother, father, and other sources of bad conditioning. And also genetic work can create a new dot chromosome, so 13 genes, I think. I'm not the best at science, but create a new dot chromosome that facilitates the evolution of human consciousness. Actually, divinity said that in about 100 years, every human on Earth would have this new dot chromosome, but you can speed this up with a vortex healer, and also it can enhance organs and body systems. As I said, we have special protocols for relationship and breakups. And just a note on this, a relationship can be between two people, so your partner, spouse, mother, father, brother, neighbor, but also we hold relationships with things like food, exercise, the place we live, our jobs, and with life itself. So to explain a little bit more into that, you can imagine the interaction between people to be interwoven in the astral realm, and over time the emotional positionality expressed by each person builds up, and the person starts to interact with that build-up position on the astral realm instead of interacting directly with another person. So this field, the astral field, astral realm you can call it, this field also exists on a personal karmic level and also on a general universal consciousness level, and it holds all interpersonal interconnection of karmic cause and effect from the beginning of each being's personal history, and also between two ancestral genetic lines on a karmic level. Vortex healing can work on all of those things. As we said, it can also be used for space clearing and things like clearing entities, ghosts, and you go on, the spooky, so to say. Generally speaking, for space clearing, over 95% of the times it can be facilitated at a distance just as effectively as in person. Generally, when something is too dense to be moved at a distance, your vortex healer will need to be in person, but again, it's quite rare. A general space clearing can be useful when moving to a new house, after a heavy fight, in your office, after the loss of a beloved one, or just to freshen up and re-establish a place harmonic flow. And when starting a new job, a new relationship, a new phase of life, the astral realm, as we spoke before about it, the astral realm interpenetrates all of our familiar four-dimensional space-time world dimensions. So everything we think, feel, and build leaves an impression, a remark on the astral plane. Over time, building up of emotional charge in a place can make the space feel heavy, uncomfortable, stiff, and you may find yourself not at ease or emotionally overwhelmed, and also tensions in the interaction between people seem to arise for apparently no reason. This is also, you know, when you walk into a building and it just doesn't feel right. Maybe there is no ghost, there is no entity, there is nothing. It's just, I don't know, 300 years ago, there was some heavy emotional charge there. Maybe someone got abused or killed or stuff gone down not right. So there you go, that will be an example. Furthermore, this tissue on the astral, the tissue that separates our realm from the astral realm, can get torn, and beings from higher dimensions can permeate in our fields of consciousness, influencing our reality. Enough emotional pain, trauma, and a focused emotional negativity can cause this kind of energetic opening, leaving open access to those energies to come through and get attached to someone or something, like an object, a place, or a building. Vortex healing can quickly and effectively clear emotional imprints accumulation on the astral, but also quickly clear a person's system, an object, buildings, houses from other dimensional energies and beings, and also seal the ruptures in the astral, even at a distance. Sometimes you get ghosts who inhabit places, and sometimes they can start interacting with the living and create strange happenings. But ghosts are not what we are used to think they are. They are not lost souls that did not cross the right way. Ghosts are leftover pieces of the emotional body. We said earlier we have 8 energetic bodies. So ghost will be a split piece of the emotional body of someone that is dead, departed, and with enough emotional energy of attachment to something or someone on earth, somehow will create a cohesion and their human-like form is kept. Sometimes you get also, it's more rare, but you can get like a karmic body ghost. Those are a bit more nasty to get rid of, but nothing that Merlin can't take care about. And you can also create something called an out-of-body ghost if you are alive. Say you had enough trauma that you split a piece of your emotional body. You can have a ghost of yourself walking around. Anyways, vortex healing can also facilitate healings on the deceased. We are incarnational beings having both a body and a mind that traveled with us through eons. We call this incarnational body and karmic mind. The incarnational body is made out of vital webbing, and you can imagine it sort of a container, while the karmic mind is consciousness. Everything we experienced in past lives has impacted and conditioned both of these. So when people reincarnate, what is stored in the incarnational body and karmic mind becomes a major source of conditioning for the new human mind and energy system. So at incarnation, the incarnational body merges into the energetic body called karmic body, which sits in the spine, and imprinting all its ancient conditioning into the new human body, with the karmic mind merging into the mind and consciousness of the new human consciousness and sharing all its memories and issues So after someone has passed away, Vortex Healing can facilitate healing on their incarnational consciousness up to 6 weeks after their death. To recap and summarize a little bit, all of Vortex healings are guided by the divine intelligence within the vortex, the divine presence that is the source of all the grace and healing power of Vortex Healing is what guides the healing. There is so much more I would like to talk about, but we are running out of live time. So I hope I was able to give you an understanding of what Vortex Healing is and how it can help you. It certainly did change my life, and I would always encourage anyone who is serious about healing and awakening to experience its transformational power themselves, either by having a healing session with a vortex healer, but also to take classes themselves. If you're meant to be there, you will be there. As we wrap up this episode, I want to thank you all for joining me on this journey, and I'm thrilled to share my passion for healing with you. If you want to get in contact with me, you can follow me on Instagram at magicalmara_. All my contact info and links are on newsforthesoul.com. Remember, healing is a journey. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. Stay tuned for more episodes, and until next time, stay cool. Remember, you are love and compassion. Be well and be love.